Beer, 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 beer. Beer, 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 beer. Beer, 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 beer. Beer, 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 beer. Hop on brewerytours.com.au because beer.
Every business knows they need great marketing, but it's often hard to know what works and what you should be doing, let alone finding the time to do it. Abby and her team at Crisp Communications take all this hassle away, creating beautiful marketing that helps businesses put their best foot forward. They don't just deliver great results, they're also super easy to work with and practice what they preach with great communication all along the way. So if you need a new website, new branding, new brochures, or even help with your podcast, head to crispcoms.co to find out more.
Ben gives it to him. A downfield free kick. Is it marked by Morris? No. He's slung. He snaps. He scores.
Ashcroft took it off the pack. High ball coming back. Gee, that never looked like it. And it worked back as it gained meterage for a goal. Now he's in trouble. Rayner just straight lined the footy. Shook him off. Drilling ball. One-on-one. Bailey at the back. Was there a free? Did it get over the top untouched? You bet. It's a goal.
Comes at the ball here. Hands to it. No mark. Lohman. Bailey. You know the rest. Second final. First AFL goal. What a moment to celebrate. Big brother showed little brother very clearly who stands where in the pecking order. The premiership defence rolls on for Brisbane.
The Brisbane Lions fancast is back, and the Brisbane Lions themselves have made their way into their fourth consecutive prelim final against the Pies MCG Saturday, 5:15. This one's looking like the twilight job again. Something to look forward to. But we had an epic Q clash on Saturday night. One that I was pretty nervous in the lead up to. I had a feeling all the injuries and 7 straight final series, and it was all just seeming a little bit too much, and it was all catching up to us. So I was really, really glad when that final siren went and we put in one hell of a performance led by a midfield that weren't going to let round 20 happen to them again, and we will have a big chat about that. Of course, it is all thanks to Hop on Brewery Tours and Crisp Communications. Like, rate, subscribe, follow, do all the stuff. Check us out on YouTube, wherever you find your podcasts, and of course, follow us on all the socials, all that sort of gear. If you like the show, head to the website, buy yourself a shirt, and it was really, really cool to see a few people wearing their Froggy Leicester shirts that they let us know via Twitter, which was really heartwarming. And of course, you can always shoot through some money to the tip jar as well. That's available at our website, brisbanelionsfancast.com.au. But let's get into this semi-final where we absolutely smacked the Suns, kept them under 50 points, which is, for me, that's probably one of the most pleasing things, is keeping them to a very low score. But to have that midfield well and truly back in action was very, very nice, Pat. And we called the changes almost perfectly again. Big O came in for Sam Day, and of course Brucey came back in, and there was shuffling around with the loss of Neil.
Hindsight, I probably was a bit harsh on Brucey, to be honest. And well worth seeing him in his beautiful cornrows with the sub vest on to allow little Marshall to run around a lot, and he grew into the game, but probably burying the lead a little bit there. But I can ask you a serious question. How worried were you when they kicked those 2 goals at the beginning?
I wasn't actually. I was a bit more because I guess like all Lions fans at the moment, we're looking out for what the intent is, and the intent was there. Just like we saw how it was there for the Cats real early on last week. I did see it with us early on this week, and I thought, yeah, okay, Ben King's plucked a mark here. The second goal was a Noah Anderson special out of the middle, but I wasn't too worried about it because I knew we were in the game, and I knew we'd brought the right attitude. So we clawed it back fairly quickly after that. But no, I wasn't too worried. I was worried when Ben King was definitely getting the better of Dizzy Gardner in the first quarter, and I'm glad that change was made sooner rather than later.
Yeah, I mean, I was just willing to kind of ride the wave. I admittedly, I was much more nervous than... I don't normally get nervous before games, and particularly after winning the premiership last year, it sort of is what it is. Doesn't bother me. But I was quite nervous before the game, and I didn't realise I was just sort of this little... Sort of just like burrowing into the couch to sort of try and save myself any kind of pain. So yeah, I mean, I was going to say I don't believe you, but I think you explained your reasoning quite well. So that'll give me a B-, I reckon.
We got to quarter time and it was close. It was a couple of points in it, and I met up with a couple of friends who were Sun supporters, and I said, look, we're playing the better footy. You guys have just taken your opportunities when they've come about. So I'm not too worried at this point. And yeah, and that's usually me, who's a glass half empty, especially when it comes to my footy team. So I was happy with what I saw nice and early, and it obviously continued.
Yeah, I think we put together the first half was obviously where the damage was done. And I mean, to me, I was just sort of largely hoping we just kind of stayed in the game as long as possible. I know that, I mean, we played the better football across the night. We won every quarter, I believe. Sorry, Adelaide. But just on the whole, I think they were gonna kind of get leggy towards the end of the game, and we saw that in kind of a not so nice way. Just the game blew out, and the last quarter was largely inconsequential. But I think it kind of in a strange way, it allowed it allowed Gallup to kind of get into the game a little bit. It allowed Marshall to get his run on a bit, and it gave us almost like a match sim during a final before next week, which is insane to think about in my opinion.
Yes. We'll have a chat about Ty Gallup later, because I thought he had a great game, of course, and obviously slotted his first goal. The other thing that sort of put me at ease was that their midfield wasn't running right, and we knew that was going to be where all the damage was going to be done one way or the other, whether it was for us or for them. Is, when we beat them early on in the season, it was our midfield that did all the work. When they smacked us a few weeks ago, it was because their midfield went absolutely ham, and we saw what Rao did last week as well. So when you get to quarter time and he's not exactly tearing the game open, it's always a good sign as well.
Yeah, and admittedly, I did quite like at different times Huey and Will Ashcroft going head to head with Anderson. Just it was sort of, he's a really good player, and to see Will, I said a few weeks ago how Darcy Wilmot's sort of style was like my favourite as far as a player goes. I think Will Ashcroft's very close second. He looks like a big throwback. He's kind of got these sneaky broad shoulders, and his socks are a little bit up but not too far, and I don't know, it's a very nice, and to see him in full flight was it was pretty good, and to kind of affect Anderson the other way was really important. McCluggage he got a lot of the ball, and he was really important in that link-up play, but he didn't quite kind of break the game apart in ways we've seen, which I don't mind, because other people were able to do that. And I'll tell you what, the game put the voting to the test, because there were certain moments that were sort of, probably easier to vote for and not in other ways. I did two types of votes. I did the 3-2-1 just to see what would happen, and then I did the nightmare fuel that I did. So we'll get to that later on. But yeah, we're definitely in the game. I thought Jared Berry was awesome.
Yeah, it was good to have him back after a week where he looked a little sort of unsure about himself last week, but he wasn't alone there against the Cats.
I think more than anything, his ability to he took a couple of pack marks and trusted his vertical reach, I suppose, to lack of better words. And I think an impressive stat is, if you look at meters gained, he was right behind Zorko. So Zorko 704 and Berry with 668. And Berry doesn't take kickouts. So
and you got a Jared Berry goal as well.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, never in doubt.
As I said, probably the most pleasing thing about the whole game is the ability to keep them to a very low score, and Harris Andrews had a big part in that in the second half. But to keep them to one goal after halftime was pretty special.
Yeah, they were very stifled. The Gold Coast were, and to make the change of Farah and Farah. Am I having a stroke? What's the name of
What about him?
Oh, like, because Harris... Can we start?
Yeah.
Fucking hell. Oh, sorry. To have Harris playing on Farah early, and then obviously King was getting a little bit out of hand. To swap that and just make it a non-issue was really impressive, and they covered really well. Froggy Lester's awesome, and Wilmot on Humphreys was really good too. Yeah. I didn't even sort of clock that at the time. I was sort of just looking at going, Humphrey hasn't done anything, and Wilmot obviously did. And Jasper Fletcher was he was unassuming and not very flashy, but did everything that needed to be done, which was, sometimes you're not going to look like you're having an awesome game, but you're just there doing your thing. So really, really good from the defensive group. And surely they'll build a lot of confidence.
Yeah, and starts, of course, on Ben Long, who has been a really good small forward this year and kept him to absolutely nothing. Was fantastic.
I thought Starsfish was playing forward. No, that was Lyman. You missed it. Straight over you.
I was like, what is happening now? Wasn't that something? Kai Loman with the shaved bonds.
Didn't mind it. Show of intent, he's always going to be him. But I have a question. At the game, what was the jersey clash like in real time?
It wasn't ideal. Like, you could obviously tell the difference, but I don't think it had the yellow would have been better for the Suns. The yellow definitely would have been much easier, and because they were both wearing dark shorts as well. I don't know how much that actually played into it.
When did dark shorts not being mandatory for an away team, when did that stop? Have I missed something here? Because, to me, whilst I agree, when you were looking in a spot on the screen, you're like, oh yeah, that's the pink guys and there's the maroons. But your peripheral vision outside of that, maybe I'm just blind, I don't know. A bit of irony.
No, there was definitely moments.
It seemed like peripheral vision would have been difficult to kind of, you're scanning the field. I mean, I've watched football like a dingus anyway, so I scan the field and I go, oh, shit. And then there were a couple of handballs that were just obviously intuitive ones that were straight to opponents. And, I didn't like it, but that's okay. I like the pink Guernsey. It's good, but I just, time and a place. Wear some white shorts. It's not that hard. And I actually quite liked some of the guys that were wearing, pink boots with the pink. It's quite cool.
And then you got John Noble, who just blended right into the pale pink as well.
One big fleshy mass.
Yeah. The other thing that was most pleasing about this game was definitely the pressure, the tackle pressure, the ability to sort of close in on space much better than we did last week. And as Fag said, what Geelong did to us last week we did to the Suns this week. Yeah,
we pretty much, Raul aside, we completely dominated the contest and dictated how the game was to be played. We were able to kind of get it in to out. They had a little bit of luck early on in transition, but not really. I think a lot of their scores were sort of from errors that we made, whether they were effort errors or turnover or whatever. But, we scored heavily from the back half as well. So it was good to see us taking the risks, which he said in the pre-game we needed to be taking and continue to take those risks. And it worked out pretty well. So, tackle record breaker.
Tackles. We had two. Yeah, we had two. So Dunkley obviously broke the number of tackles in a final. Beat Jimmy Bartell with he had 16. So Josh Dunkley's now got the record with 18. The next closest was Rao with 8. We also broke another one. Cam Rayner broke the record for most broken tackles in a final as well. So I
think it was the most broken tackle in any game ever, not just finals.
Oh,
so.
Crazy. Well, then that's a record
Dusty
held by
Martin.
Dusty, yeah.
So that was impressive, and Cam Rayner he went ballistic without going ballistic, and there were a few sort of contributors around the traps. Like I thought Bailey largely had like a pretty nothing game, but ended up kicking 3 goals. So it's like cool, interesting, funny, but all in all, like a pretty handy 3-quarter performance, and then the last quarter just sort of fizzled.
Charlie Cameron, much better this week. Obviously, didn't get a goal in the end and absolutely pissed away a golden opportunity. Kicked 0 goals 3. But much better in terms of his output. His pressure, his chasing, his tackling, his field kicking, all that sort of stuff was... Like, that's the sort of game that when... And there was a lot of talk about him throughout the week. People have been dumping on Charlie across the year for his form. But if he plays like that, even if he doesn't hit the scoreboard, I'm sort of all right with that.
Yeah, you can generally tell a bit like us, you can see his intent. And when he gets a clean mark early on and a clean disposal, I know there were a couple of turnovers and whatever, but that happens with everybody. So I think, the writing was on the wall. He was coming up a bit further. I can't quite recall who was playing on him, but he was dragging them up. And it worked pretty well, Was it Hewland that was playing on him, or was Hewland playing?
I think he had Hewland at times, and Will Powell at different moments as well.
So all in all, like Charlie was, if he'd kicked 2 goals, you'd be like, cool, he's in the top 5 performers. But that little bit of output, it would have been good to see him get a goal, just to kind of give him a bit of momentum, because he tends to play pretty well against Collingwood. So hopefully he can kind of watch some videos of himself playing to try and sort of G him up for next week. So, but all in all, like largely pretty good team performance, I think. And the spread from inside to out, like they couldn't do anything. Like we were either kicking through them or they were leaving the corridor wide open. So we just had a choice of how we wanted to play the game, and it was just a golf in knowing the moment and owning the moment and playing in finals.
What did you make of the 2 rucks as a whole? Well, and specifically of Oscar's performance?
It's the best I've seen Oscar probably look this year, which is probably not saying much. I did find it interesting that Gallup actually chipped in for a little bit of ruck time as well, so there was like a third added in. Fort competed well. Fort competed really well. Owie was a pretty good target. He was unlucky not to hit the scoreboard on multiple occasions. And I think like when you've got a team like we do, where they kind of know what to do. They're drilled. They know how to win finals. They know how to play the game. They know the system. When you inject that little bit of like the romance into the team, like the story of last year, and I'm sure there would have been no words minced about that in sort of most situations going into these finals. Big O's probably not going to play. If Eric Hipwood's fit, is O going to play? Probably not. Maybe, I don't know. So to get that little spark of it's just like a bit of like a good feeling around the team, and I think it would pump a lot of the guys up. So when you are a team that focuses so heavily on structure and that sort of thing, to get that little bit of like the vibes, I think it could be a little tipping point for the team. It's a little bit of extra, a little bit of difference, and hopefully it does well for him. I mean, it was nice to see him playing, and he looked better.
Yeah, definitely. I think just having that little bit of the little less workload did him wonders for his performance, and obviously it wasn't stand out or anything, but he'll be better for being on the park, and he should hold his spot for next week, I would have thought. I thought he did much better than what Day would have provided us.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think we should be tinkering with the team now. Even if Lockie Neal's a chance, I
Oof.
think that's too much of a risk in a if you're bringing him into a grand final. We'll get to that when we get there. But if you're worried about a guy's calf blowing up, I don't know if you're taking him.
Yeah. It's a tough one, and thankfully not something we have to think about just yet, but potentially down the line. Yeah. Honestly, this was just a dominant performance, and it sort of matches the theme of the year of, when we get embarrassed, we generally respond really, really well the following week. So the the challenge now is to keep it going against a Collingwood side that they looked a bit stumbly heading into finals, definitely, but they've got most of their team back on the park, and they obviously put together a strong performance against Adelaide. How strong was it? That remains to be seen, and we've obviously got some pretty recent good memories against Collingwood, but they're not going to let us play our game the same way that the Suns did, that's for sure.
No, but I also don't think that the Suns necessarily had much of a say in it, and if we play the way that we did in, let's say, like the second, third and fourth quarter against Collingwood when we were at the MCG a few weeks ago, they had no answer to what we were trying to do. So I think we're a better team than Collingwood. I think we're missing a lot of players, so it's hard to kind of bring that intensity, and there might be a little bit of experience that's slightly mismatched just because they've kind of, as you said, got a lot of guys coming back. How, and depends on how they're gonna sort of structure that. Will Mason Cox be there? Will McStay come back in? How are they going to finesse it?
Yeah, DeGoey will be like back to near his best. Bobby Hill is a question mark, but I reckon he'll be playing for sure.
Bobby Hill?
Yeah.
You reckon they'll put him as a sub? Or do you reckon he'll
No, I reckon they'll play him, yeah. I reckon they'll play him. And McCreary's back as well. That McCreary's a big one for them.
This is comparative to our last game, right? Yeah. Thinking, I thought I saw those guys play against Adelaide 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, no, I'm just comparing to when we played them last. DeGoey and Bobby Hill both played, but their minutes were managed like to the nth degree. They're well back now.
Yeah, absolutely. But it'll be an interesting game. It's a bit of a 50-50 one, which is different to how you feel last week, coming off the Geelong game, going into the Suns one. But we are a good team, and it is interesting to sort of think that we have got quite a lot of young guys, and they'll be better off for it, one way or another. So, MCG, we like it. Go there and smash them.
Yeah, it's been a happy hunting ground for the last over a year now, so hopefully we can continue that as well. All right, should we get into some votes for Hop on Brewery Tours?
I don't know. Are you ready?
I'm as ready as I'll ever be. Now, voting, it was easier last week when watching the game on the TV because I could sort of take a second after each quarter and write them down. No such luck at the footy, watching in real time, drinking beers. So I have just sort of gone for 6 players that I thought deserved votes and weighted them how I thought they should be weighted. So
that's abuse of the system, but I'll allow it. So
I've gone Dunkley 3, Ashcroft also 3, McCluggage and Andrews 2 each, Wilmot and Rayner get 1 each.
That's pretty cool. I sent you a message before we started this saying that I'd had 8 people in my votes, and funnily enough, for the first 2 quarters, I had 6 different people. So mine is an absolute nightmare. So I've got Harris with 3, Dunkley with 2, Ashcroft with 2, and then 1 each to Fort, Berry, McCluggage, Wilmot, and Gallup.
Fort, Berry, Wilmot, McCluggage, Gallup.
Because if you can't get a vote in a final on a weird system of voting that rewards a quarter, scoring your first goal, when can you get a vote?
Yeah, and look, Gallup did have a vote for me, and then I did bump him for Wilmot because I thought Moddy was very good.
Now, if I was doing this the other way around, my votes would have been 3 Harris, 2 Dunkley, 1 Ashcroft. So it's basically
which
the
is
same.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, fair enough.
is this a lot of fuckery for not much difference? Maybe. I'll let you be the judge of that. And I don't mean you,
Look,
Brooksy, I mean the people.
I think we covered, and there's probably a few players. Like Zorko had a pretty bloody good game as well. Fletter was all right, but not. It was all right. Kyle Lohmann probably could have snuck a vote for his 3 goals as well along the line. And Stas, I thought Stas probably could have snuck a vote for his performance on Ben Long. So, I mean, it was a good team performance. It's one of those
really
games
was.
where you think to yourself, votes are hard, but that's probably a good thing.
Can't really argue with that, can you? So have we got a leaderboard, or are we going to wait until the bitter end to do?
No, I'm gonna have to wade my way through that stuff you've just given me, and we'll have a leaderboard by this time next week.
Sounds good. Now, have you lined up
I would say Harris Andrews and Josh Dunkley would be somewhere near the top.
I think you'd probably be safe with that one.
Yeah.
Now, my question is, have you lined up a Cheaters podcast for later this week again?
No, I have not.
I got a message from my brother in Germany that had a screenshot of your co-host. I don't remember his name, the guy from Rebel, and it just said, "Man, you look really dehydrated." So that was quite funny. You two with your bloody radio chemistry put me to shame. I can't compete with that. How many years you worked with him?
A few now.
How many?
What is it now? 2025, 7 or 8 years.
Yeah, that's just too many years to even know a bloke. So, finishing each other's sentences and all that, so makes me sick.
All right. Well, you don't have to worry moving forward. At least not this week, anyway. So
you're not going to hit up Swoop Luke or someone like that.
No, and I do like Swoop Luke, and I know that's going to annoy a lot of people listening right now, but I think he does good work. So, no.
Okay. I guess the proof of the pudding will be in the podcast if there is one.
Proof in the potting. No VFL this week to talk about, so let's not. I can't foresee any changes for this game against the Pies, can you?
Negative.
No, it looks pretty locked in for the first time in a while, which is good.
Is there anyone else on the team that you wanted to talk about? Because I think we've pretty well covered it. Like, probably didn't talk about Rayner enough. Like, I think he really impacted without doing much, and probably should have scored about 7 goals.
I think, considering the week he obviously had, it was good for him to come out and just like stamp his authority on a game in a way that we know he can, and a way that people are proud of as well.
Now, it was... You brought up the first crack thing, and I was obviously quite dismissive of that, given that 2/3 of those people on the show rubbed me the wrong way, and the other third is Lee Montagna, who a bit does. I saw that, and I think it's hard to make conclusions of what was said based on nothing. And also, I mean, the big thing that I've been saying is, like, the umpire was obviously not afraid to pay free kicks, and if that had been truly demonstrative dissent, surely he would have had a free kick, right?
I would have thought so. Yeah, it's, as I said at the time, like, and I understand if that's the only vision that Kingy had, I get why he's sitting there saying it doesn't look good, because I guess it doesn't look good. But what I also said is it's shot from fucking 200 meters away at a full MCG and a
right
hostile
after a
crowd.
goal.
Yeah,
music blaring.
Yeah, so he probably obviously went heavy-handed on that whole situation.
Well, one of the things that I didn't understand is it's like, oh, this will set a precedent for local footy. So why are you showing it? No one's seen
Yeah.
this footage. So you're literally showing them like,
Don't do this.
yeah. I nearly said show. Yeah, I'm not going to go there.
Yeah, look, I know there was a phone call made to David King from both Cam Rayner and the club across the week, and so yeah, there you go.
You all right? I'm in for that. Okay, cool. Was it like a good phone call, or was it a shut your yammer?
It was, I think the phone call originally that came from Cam that I believe didn't get answered was just to say, hey, like, this was actually what was going on. And then the club called and said, like, pull your head in. Like, Cam Rayner's one of the number one guys that will always give an interview, but maybe not this week. So he was happy to have a chat to Channel 7 this week, I believe. So it'll all be fine. Like, no one's going to care about it in a couple of weeks' time. So who gives a shit in the end? But yeah. I know that they weren't particularly happy with that.
That's nice. I mean, I know that we have. Did you see like Snipey, or not Snipey, but Titchy Fags in his pre-game? Not pre-game, but pre-game press conference the day before. Sorry, I will get a sentence out eventually.
Yeah, he was angsty, wasn't he?
Agitated. And he looked like he was sort of on pre-workout or something. He was talking very quickly. So, yeah, sometimes funny to see slightly unhinged Fags, because you know that he's obviously revved that into the team. So it was good to see. Did you watch Unfiltered?
I did, yeah.
It's pretty good.
Yeah, it was nice.
It sort of seemed like they took a lot of the stuff from Howie Games and that other guy, Buckley, Dill
Buckley, yeah.
Dill Buckley. Those two, they like watched them and were like, "Oh, these are good questions. We will ask them with a good set at that pub at Fitzroy." So,
yeah, it was nice. So if you haven't had the chance to watch that one, make sure you catch up. It's on 7+. I like Hamish McLaughlin. He seems like a nice fella.
Yeah, he's good. Some of them are hit and miss, but I liked that one obviously because it's a little fakey, and I could literally watch him do anything, so it's good.
It was very cute, wasn't it? All right, so no changes. Let's get into some questions then.
Do you want to talk about other football? You know, the Adelaide Hawthorn game?
Oh, yeah, no. Yeah, let's have a chat about that. It's pretty upsetting, if I'm honest.
Can I ask which one of us said that Adelaide would go out in straight sets?
You can ask that because you know the answer, and
what's
it would be you.
The answer? What's the answer, Brooksy? It's me.
Yes, it was you that said they'd go out in straight sets.
Yep. Not to blow my own horn, but it is nice to kind of get what I say, a broken clock is right twice a day. So that was very much one for me. But I mean, both games panned out kind of how I expected them to pan out. Obviously, the Rankin thing was a bit of a weird sidewinder, and also their crowd being gooseberries. But it's good for them. Reap what you sow. Now, we've talked a little bit about finals experience and things like that, and I think there are quite a lot of parallels to be made between them and us in 2019. I think we were probably a better team. And the Suns will feel this as well, because I think I didn't watch all of Damien Hardwick's press conference because I value my sanity, but I think there was one quote pulled out of that sort of, there are kind of gaps in the squad or gaps in the team that you can kind of miss, or they can play better and kind of mitigate them. Yep. But I just think when you can have a really good home and away team, and when they come up against these like hardened finals units, it exposes gaps in your list. And I think Adelaide found that out pretty big. If you go back and look at our final against GWS that we played, there are some players you look at and go, they're not bad players, but we improved on them. And that's why we won a premiership, without being hyperbolic. I look at guys like Witherden, Alan Christensen, Steph Martin, even McStay, Nick Robertson, Mitch Robinson, Matho, guys like that are like, they're good squad team guys, and they played well in finals, but It's not Dunkley. It's not Joe Danaher. It's not, Zorko on halfback or Coleman. It's you make these improvements around the ground, and you go, these guys aren't quite it. And I think Adelaide
Probably
is struggling a bit
at
with
that stage. Was Starcevic now like a regular member of our team at that stage?
No.
Well, there you go. He's an automatic upgrade on Witherden or even Answorth.
Yeah, well, that was when Answorth was in the team on a wing, and then he went out and took the long road to come back in. And I mean, but it's like Christensen's a good player, but you throw in like swap that out and Archie's in there or Kai Lohman or whatever. And this is if I look at the Adelaide kind of team, I look at guys and go, well, like Laird. I mean, Dawson had a horrible, but not him. So I look at like Laird, I look at Keys, Hinge, Walker. Like they're just sort of a bit. Sam Berry got absolutely dunced on by.
I thought Sam Berry had a good game actually.
Well, he got pumped in the first quarter, and the damage was done pretty badly then. Like he's serviceable, but it's just they lack a bit of something, and like these are the sort of things you don't quite sort of figure out. And guys like Neil Bullen are supposed to be your sort of experienced players that come in and just make poor decisions and stuff. And
I must admit, I was pretty disappointed to see Jordan Dawson play so poorly, and it looked like he had some sort of injury. But he's a guy that I love, and I was really excited to see how he would actually lead a team into finals because I thought he would be, one of the elite performers, but.
Not well would be the way. And these things happen. Teams do have these learnings. It just and I'm sure like better minds will analyze this and go, where are the gaps? Maybe it is a situation where Sam Berry can do a job when they're put in a different situation with someone else next to them, or but no one really stood out. Fogarty was virtually anonymous. So it's a difficult time, a bit of soul searching. Maybe they'll go for a cheeky camp, the old Crows.
Well, it looks like they'll get Cal Archie through the door. So that's whose spot does he take? I mean, there's players on that team I don't recognise. That Taylor fella, number 19, I've got no idea who he is. It looks like probably Brodie Smith won't go around again. Tex probably won't go around again. There's a couple of players they can improve on.
Is there anyone from their team that you take? Because, Cal Archie will come in and they've kind of got limited spots for that small forward line because you look at, Rochelle and Rankin will probably split time between the forward line and midfield.
Forward and mid. I think he probably just takes Tex's role, and I think they go slightly shorter in their forward line because the three talls, if you will, if you're counting Tex, I think Cal just takes that role.
Yeah, interesting. Because I'd look at someone like Pedler. I quite like Pedler.
I really like Luke Pedler, yeah.
He's someone that, he's had an injury history. I'd sort of say, hey, do you want to come play at the Lions? Because we might be down a forward or small forward or whatever. So, not that we're trying to get everybody's players all of the time. But I thought he actually played quite well with low disposals.
Yeah, he was good.
And tackles hard, pressures well. But maybe he's one they identify and go, nah, you're going nowhere because you're part of the plan. So, interesting. That was my weird tangent about teams and finals exposing lists and where changes can and need to be made. So, on to the questions.
Let's get into the questions for Crisp Communications. ChrisComs.co giving you free Brisbane Lions Fancast stickers. First one from Tom. This is a nice, easy one to get things going. Were the Suns absolutely cooked or were the Lions just too good? I think it's a little bit of both. We spoke about on the show last week I think there was a strong case to be made that they played their grand final against Freo. The emotional toll it would have taken, the huge sense of relief of finally playing finals football, getting a win, the whole David Swallow big trip to and from Perth. I think that definitely played a part. They'll never ever admit or say that it did, not publicly anyway or right away. But it has to have played a part, and I think it just got to a point where they came here, and you're coming up against a team that's played 7 final series in a row and knows what it's about at this point.
Yeah, I think you're spot on there. Bit of both. And traditionally the travel back from Perth is the harder of the two. Going there, you go there, the adrenaline, whatever. But I think, what we were talking about last week, would you rather play the team that's recovering before they travel or then traveling during their recovery to then prep? I don't know. Might have been something that I was talking to myself with. But I think it was, and that's why you have that kind of hope where if you're still in the game at 3/4 time, even if they're the better team, Gold Coast, you still fancy the ability to run over the top of them. So, they didn't look like they looked disappointed for sure, but it's not like a failure of a season. They came in, they
definitely
won the
not.
final for the first time. They can hold their heads up this season and go into next year with more experience, more knowledge, hopefully a harder fixture, and then we'll see. So, yes, bit of both.
Yeah, definitely. Here's one from B. I figure you'll already unpack this. Their biggest concern is how we can maintain such pressure and work the corridor or 45s off the halfback against Collingwood and Geelong. The Suns let us play our game last night, and this is what I was sort of referring to before, Collingwood's not going to let us get away with this. Hugh McCluggage isn't going to go untagged. They might do something on Zorko, we've seen them do jobs on Harris, obviously, as well. The corridor is not going to be open. I think Will and Dunks are going to have very big jobs around clearance, and Bailey and Rain are going to have to feature more. And then putting forward some potential matchups of Starcevic on Jamie Elliott or Darcy Wilmot.
I think it's an element, again, it's the short kick mark or the aggressive kick. We have the ability to do both, and the intention is that one opens up the other one. So they can't block the corridor whilst allowing us to probe, unless they work really, really hard. And maybe they will. But can they also sustain negating our performance for 4 quarters as well? They could do it for about a quarter and a half in the game at the MCG. So, yeah, it's a tough one. I think matchup-wise, we're going to obviously have to be careful at stoppage, but we've got the players to be able to do it. And, they'll probably play fiddlesticks with Dacos and put him at half-back and then have him come in through the thing because they're kind of weird like that. But the ball inside to out, I think Ned Long played a pretty good game against Adelaide, so he might be one to kind of keep an eye on, because he was abysmal in the game against us, so he's probably got a chip on his shoulder about that. So matchups, would you? Elliott's overhead marking's probably a strength compared to Wilmot, which maybe Starcevic can probably lead to a bit more. Who else have they got floating in that forward line?
Well, it really depends on their lineup. I don't think they'll be bringing McStay back in because I think Cox worked pretty well for them. So I think they'll roll that option again. So you got Cox, Myercheck, and then players
Schultz and Lipinski, Membry,
Will Hoskin Elliott, floating all around as well. So maybe even Dizzy gets the roll on, or Froggy gets the roll on Jamie Elliott.
Yeah, I think there's going to be Sidebottom's one that we've got to kind of pay attention to because he's sort of almost similar to Ollie Dempsey. He just sort of floats forward from that wing position and obviously has a great understanding of the game and can kind of... It's like Jack Crisp he's a workhorse. He'll work through from that wing or inside to outside position and kind of provide the outnumber through sheer work rate, whereas Sidebottom just sort of sleuths his way through. And it's can we not pay attention to the guy who's put his head in the Shino Ballo? He's right there glistening. Watch him. So whether it's Levi or whether it's Marshall, we'll need to kind of watch that defensive running. So
yeah, or Bez. I think maybe Bez needs to be accountable for someone in that respect as well, because we saw exactly what happened with Levi last week against Ollie Dempsey, that he just got shown up work rate wise. So, and I thought both the Ashcroft's work rate was much better this week. especially defensively. So that obviously didn't go unheard.
Yeah, Levi's a funny one. He basically had like a nothing game. He was there.
Yeah.
He did some stuff, but there was actually one really good handball off the deck that I thought was amazing. But on the whole, Levi was he was there and he played. I'm waiting for him to do something. It's like nearly.
I think it's a long season that's catching up to a young body.
And that has and does
rest.
happen, where the first year guys, and that's where I think like Logan Morris was kind of a little bit like that heading into finals, even though he played basically half a year. So tired boy, I reckon.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And, rightly so. Nothing wrong with that. All right, Nath, what would Lockie need to do to seriously be considered? There is the option of potentially playing him as a sub if we do make it through to the grand final, and he's 60%, 70% fit?
Well, given how we use a sub, he'd probably be lucky to get on the field. Yeah, look, cybernetics, implants, leg implant, something along those lines. Like if he passes a fitness test, I guess it's fine. It's the sort of one where you really want it to either go at the fitness test or it's fine.
Yeah.
I don't know. Calf tears, I don't know. It's weird.
I mean, I wouldn't be playing him.
No, well, I said that earlier on. I think a settled team is probably... It can kind of just interrupt the chemistry of it all. If you go, oh, well, Lockie might be back at 60%, so what does that say about the perception of Marshall or Revel or, Reville? Sorry, Freudian slip. Yeah, I'd just be leaving the team as it is.
Yeah, I'm with you there as well. And at this stage, I would, if we're doing quasi-tipping now, I'm thinking the Cats get the win. You're not going to be going in half-cocked against Geelong again in a grand final.
No. We saw what that can do when Sydney tried to do it, and then we saw what happens the other way around. It can just make the decision early and stick with it. So for me, Neil doesn't come back, but that's okay. He can come back next year. It's fine.
Yeah. All right, that leads us to the next question. If we beat the Pies, who would you like to play out of the Cats and the Hawks? I mean, I'd rather play the Hawks.
I mean Geelong, I guess, because four in a season, that's a good amount. But I think Geelong are the better team.
Yeah, which is why I want to play the Cats. I want to play the Hawks.
Yeah, but at the same time, like, imagine if you were responsible for this, like, Hawks team winning a premiership by losing to them. It would be
it's pretty gross.
Horrible. At least Geelong's like, yeah. I mean, they were pretty good, whereas Hawthorn would be like, it'd be they would, like, how many documentaries would they do of it? And they'd be like, it's better than what the Lions did last year and blah, blah, blah. Yeah, Geelong. I'd be okay if we lost to Geelong in a grand final. I wouldn't overly be okay if we lost to Hawthorn. So, hedge my bets. I hope they batter the shit out of each other, to be honest.
I mean, yeah, obviously. That would be good.
Not that I'm not going to cheer injuries or tempt them, but, like, if Geelong come out with a couple of injuries, then complain about that, could be interesting. Because we'll be like, look at our list. Bam.
All right, and a second to last one here. This is a bit wordy, so I'll work my way through it here. Across the season, Lions have shown they can dominate patches of play, but not always sustain that level across 4 quarters against elite opposition. Collingwood's going to test the big game mentality and execution under pressure. What is the single most important adjustment, mental or structural, Brisbane should make to ensure a sustained full game performance? Examples are changing rotations for midfield, clarifying on leadership on pressure moments, altering the forward structure to better convert control into scoreboard. If you had to pick one change that would reliably turn intermittent dominance into consistent 4-quarter performance, what would it be and why?
Jesus. Am I at university again? What's going on here? I think we've been kind of chasing that dragon of a 4-quarter performance for, like, everyone kind of does in football.
Yeah.
We got it at the grand final last year, and I think we've had it in patches, which is kind of, I guess, part of what the question is. So, I think our team is good enough to win without the full 4-quarter effort because we tend to break teams. Or we'll break a game in a certain way. And I think if you can kind of hold ground in a quarter and a half, and then absolutely blitz them for 2, that's kind of all you need in modern football. In terms of whether it's like a structural or a mental approach to change things, I think against Collingwood, looking at it from an isolating and going away from Darcy Moore, I think is pretty important because I think Darcy Moore's like a bit of a sometimes maybe good, sometimes maybe shit type.
Yep. Oh, yeah.
He's almost like a calamity waiting to happen, and Adelaide completely played into his hands because I don't... Like, he was good, but is he really like... I look at how he played against Adelaide. He got 10 coaches' votes, and I look at how Harris played against Geelong. Shannon Neal kicked 1 goal on him. He was everywhere, and Harris didn't get a vote. So it's like... And I understand Collingwood won the game, we didn't, so... But
yeah, it's a big part of it.
Yeah, it just seems like I think the games were equally as impactful by both players. Yet one gets, talked about. So, yeah, I think probably smarter entries inside 50, whether it's dirty ball rather than kicking it long. Don't know. Have you got any thoughts on that?
I think the thing that has probably impressed me the most this year is our ability to shift gears. And it's been pointed out a couple of times on various sort of platforms is like, last year our premiership was synonymous with the chip mark and the uncontested mark game, but we did incorporate this year. We have got a bit more free-flowing ball, like rapid ball movement through the corridor, a bit more overlap handball, and then if we need to, if things aren't necessarily going our way, then we can revert to that chip mark, like we saw, like to what degree against Freo, a few weeks ago. So we've got the ability to actually do what we need to do in terms of, changing tempo and momentum to suit the opposition. But when it doesn't work, like when Geelong are just all over you last week, then you don't really get that opportunity. So I think that's probably been the most pleasing thing about our season this year is our ability to shift gears when needed.
And hopefully, like, Ty Gallop will be better for that last sort of quarter and a half. Took some marks, to have a contested outlet. And I think with Day, he was sort of almost defaulting to the front and square, like drop a ball to our runners. And sometimes you just need a bailout mark. And I think with Oscar and with Gallop, you're probably more likely to see that in lieu of Hipwood and Oscar Allen, who isn't here yet. So hopefully you can, if, last resort is, hammer it down the line, you get someone to clunk a mark. Like, that's what you're looking for. That's the last resort of the 3 options. So, I think you're right. The probing or the go quick, you've just got to kind of pick your moment and know when that is. Far out, there was some like absolutely clenching kicks from Zorko in that Gold Coast game where you're like, right over the hand of the one guy and right dropping in. Oh man, terrifying.
That's what you love him for, though.
Yep.
Last question, and this is Dunkley is now a bona fide weapon for us. Who do you put him to? I'd love to see him tackle Nick Dacos 18 times on Saturday.
I would like to see him tackle Dacos. I think Dacos would break in half if he got tackled 18 times. But
yeah, it'd be close. I think he's probably more suited to a Jordan De Goey, though.
Yeah, I think it'll be... I don't know that he'll match up on a specific person. I think he'll be at the contest just about every time, and whoever's there, he will just tackle them. That's the guy's MO, with his weird infrared sauna and all that sort of stuff that's going on, so good for him.
Yeah, I don't know that there's a a very obvious matchup for him. Like, it's the players like Rao, like Paddy Cripps that are the obvious matchups. You go, oh yeah, you go to him. But
do you put him
and
on
that's why I say
Pendlebury or something like that to just stop whatever that kind of catalyst for the, because Pendlebury's still amazingly their kind of catalyst out of contest.
It's crazy, yeah.
He still dictates all over the place. And do you just hammer him and go, well, if you like your 37-year-old body to be ravaged, keep doing what you're doing, otherwise get out of there? And do you force them to change? I don't know. I'm not 37 and I wouldn't like to be ravaged like that.
No. I can categorically say I wouldn't either. It'll be interesting, and it'll be a very much a wait and see, for sure.
Yeah, we'll see how they line up. I don't know how much there's going to be. Like, do you do a negating roll on Moore? I don't think so. I think you put Logan Morris to him and say, do you remember when he kicked, what was it, 6 on him? 5 on him?
Yeah.
6, 5, 7, 8?
Yeah,
how many goals? A lot.
It was 6 between, Moore and Charlie Dean at that stage, but yeah.
I mean, Howe will probably be there and they'll have Frampton, so it's a bit different, but at the same time, you just got to show up and hope the guys can kind of scum the ball in. So, but I think defensively, that'll be our way to win the game. So,
yeah, it's going to be tough. It's going to be a tough game, and it's going to be very different to the last time we played them.
Hopefully not.
Hopefully not, but I think it will be.
Yeah, we'll wait and see. But I hope it's a good game. I hope the crowd turns. I hope there's a lot of Lions people that can get there. So, because our travelling crowd has been awesome this year. So, keep that.
Yeah,
up.
Crowd was good on Saturday as well. Actually,
I got to admit, I reckon they just don't know how to mix the crowd at the Gabba very well through their audio things. At whether it's KO or 7, it always sounds like you're at Chandler for the swimming. Not great. So the audio mixers need to pull their socks up, in my opinion, based on no knowledge of audio mixing. So,
all right. Well, let's wrap things up for another week. Let's quickly touch on the girls who neglected to mention them last week. They got a good win away from home. They're very much like the men's team this week. Not very great at home.
They got belted
good
this
on the
week.
road. Yeah, against the rampaging North Melbourne, who have just simply can't lose a game of footy at the moment, and at this point are going to go through another season undefeated. So it was pretty close for a while, and then they were within touching distance for a bit, but that second quarter, North just absolutely blew it open, and never looked back from there. So the girls are now 2-3 in a 12-week season, so sort of hovering around the 8 without doing anything terribly special. So they've had a tough draw so far though as well.
Yeah, hopefully they can kind of pick it up as we're going into finals, and with the ladder for the AFLW, because the McClellan Trophy, who's kind of in the running for that now that the home and away season's done, and basically 9 teams all had the same number of wins. Really quite contingent on the ladies to get various jobs done, I suppose.
Hawthorn and Adelaide are probably looking the best at the moment. I think they've revamped the McClellan Trophy to actually take in finals now, I believe.
Oh, cool. That's good.
Yeah.
Could have used that the last 4 fucking years.
I know.
I want my $4 million that I'm sure will be drip fed to us.
Hawthorn, Adelaide, and Brisbane would be up there, but the girls probably need to pull out a few more wins.
Pull their socks up and get it done.
But there's still a fair amount of footy to go, so probably those 3 teams at this stage looking the best.
Is there anything by way of sort of trade nonsense that has caught your ear or eye?
Nah, not this week. Obviously, the ones we already know that are affecting our club. Obviously, Zach Merritt is the massive story at the moment, and he just looks bloody desperate to get out of Essendon. And Don't really blame him. And Essendon is putting together some sort of ridiculous offer for Zach Bailey next year as a free agent. But my guess is, if Zach Bailey is seriously considering that money, he will have a chat to Sam Draper and be like, "So what's it really like there?" And he'll say, "Mate, it's fucked. Don't go there." But it is a stupid amount of money, and it's going to be hard to say no to for anyone. So I'm sure he's already talking to Jackson Pryor anyway.
Yeah, geez. And the Jordan Ridley stuff, I just can't see that actually happening, to be perfectly honest.
Yeah, it seems a bit far-fetched at this point.
And is it just a sort of smoke and mirrors element of, the club will talk to whomever, because you would have to assume that these people have spoken to the club before they requested that, or is that just a cry for help?
No, they've definitely spoken, but yeah, it's going to be very difficult to get over the line, that.
Yeah, I don't think we have the capital to be able to do that unless something else happens, and maybe it is a case of player swap included with whatever magical Zach Bailey thing. So, we'll wait and see. Zach Bailey being an All-Australian this year won't definitely diminish his value. So, did you see the one about Lachie Neale and West Coast?
Yeah, that comes up every year, him going back to Perth, and I fair enough. Like, he's entering the twilight of his career, obviously. He's got family over there. It makes sense. Sure. Like, if that did happen, I don't know that I would be, like, amazingly upset.
What if we got a first-round pick for that? Would you take that?
Ooh. If we got a first-round pick, of course I would. Yeah, I'd do that.
Because I think
yesterday.
Because it's at a pivotal point with him where he's, like, just about to enter the old soft tissue injury phase of his career. We've seen it, and it can happen. People can drop off like that. And you go, well, West Coast really need some leadership quality, and, you've been harping on about it for years. And if it doesn't happen now, it probably won't happen. So,
yeah,
could that be the reason why he's so keen to get back and with his fucking hyperbolic chamber or whatever the hell? What's that thing in Dragon Ball Z where they go in and they, like, the time slows down or whatever?
Not a Dragon Ball Z.
I'm going to look this up and find out what it is, because I haven't thought about this since I was a child.
Yeah, but like I said, if that was to happen, I'm not going to be tremendously upset. He's plus 30 now, so and it's not like our midfield is still desperately reliant on him. And if it's the best thing for him and his family, and if it's the best thing for us, then I guess make it happen.
So looking at this, it's probably not the greatest idea. So the hyperbolic time chamber, known as the Room of Spirit and Time, 1 year inside the chamber is equivalent to 1 day on the outside. So I don't think we really want him to age by a year a day. Although that said, you could put him in for like 10 minutes, and that'd be the 4 weeks, and then he's out, get him right, do some training with Goku, and he'll be happy as a clam.
Well, there you go.
Hopefully the Gabba has a Room of Spirit and Time.
Yep. To that person that asked a question about what it would take to get Lachie Neale back, there's your answer. Bullshit is what it would
from
take.
Dragon Ball Z, yes. You have to wait all episode to get that one. Good for you.
All right, let's pack this one in, and we'll have a prelim next week to chat about.
Sounds good. And you'll be talking with Swoop Luke in the week, I'm sure. It'll pop up.